Star Trek Season 2 finale is so cool. The franchise homaged it 56 years later. When Star Trek, the original series, first aired its second season finale in March 1968, few could have guessed that the episode would linger in the DNA of the franchise for over half a century. Yet, Assignment: Earth was no ordinary installment of Gene Roddenberry's iconic series. A strange blend of time travel adventure, Cold War paranoia, and proto-superhero origin story, the episode stood out from its peers. Its cool factor has only grown in retrospect, not just because of its style and mystery, but because it left behind a legacy that other Star Trek projects would later echo. In fact, 56 years after it first aired, Assignment: Earth received a direct homage in Star Trek: Strange New Worlds Season 2. This wasn't just a nostalgic wink at longtime fans, but proof that Star Trek never truly lets go of its strangest, boldest experiments. To understand why this episode has such staying power, and why the homage felt so satisfying, we need to revisit the strange mission of Captain Kirk, Spock, and a man who might have been Star Trek's first spin-off hero. The strange origins of Assignment: Earth. The second season finale wasn't originally designed to be a traditional Star Trek episode. Instead, it was conceived as a backdoor pilot. Roddenberry was hoping to launch another television series alongside Star Trek, and Assignment: Earth was the way to introduce audiences to its leading man. That man was Gary Seven, played by Robert Lansing. Unlike the scientists, soldiers, or explorers that usually populated Star Trek, Gary Seven was presented as something different, a mysterious human who had been taken by aliens as a child, trained for centuries, and returned to Earth in the 20th century to guide humanity past potential disasters. In other words, he was both a time traveler and a secret agent, armed with futuristic technology and a mission to keep Earth on track. The Enterprise only stumbled into his story because Kirk and Spock were observing Earth in 1968, a classic Trek time travel conceit. When they encounter Gary Seven, they don't know if he's a friend or foe. Is he here to save Earth or destroy it? That question forms the heart of the finale. Why the episode was so cool in 1968. At first glance, Assignment: Earth might feel like an odd tonal shift for Star Trek. It's set almost entirely on 20th century Earth, its conflicts revolve around nuclear escalation, and the Enterprise crew feels like guests in someone else's story. But that's exactly what makes it stand out. 1. It's James Bond meets Star Trek. Gary Seven's vibe owes a lot to the spy craze of the 1960s. He has gadgets, disguises, and a secret mission that requires stealth. His assistant, the bubbly Secretary Roberta Lincoln, played by a young Terry Gare, could have stepped straight out of a spy comedy. The fusion of sci-fi and espionage was ahead of its time. 2. It tackled real-world tensions. The late 1960s were defined by the Cold War, and nuclear weapons were the defining fear of the age. Assignment: Earth put that anxiety at the center of the story. By framing the plot around stopping an accidental nuclear disaster, the episode grounded its sci-fi premise in immediate relevance. 3. It gave Spock the spotlight, while Gary Seven is the focus. The interplay between Spock and Kirk, figuring out whether to trust him, makes the story work. Spock's logic ultimately sides with Seven, adding a subtle layer of commentary about trust, destiny, and calculated risks. 4. It hinted at a bigger universe. The most fascinating element is the implication that Gary Seven is part of a larger galactic plan. He isn't a Starfleet officer, but he's still connected to advanced aliens guiding Earth. That idea feels very X-Files, decades before its time. Simply put, the episode felt more like a new series pilot than a regular Star Trek adventure. And while the spin-off never materialized, fans never forgot Gary Seven or the mysterious assignment he embodied. Why Star Trek didn't spin it off but should have? Roddenberry's hope was clear. If NBC bit, Assignment: Earth could have gone to series. But the network passed, and with it, Gary Seven's destiny remained locked inside one Star Trek episode. Why didn't it happen? Timing, mostly. Star Trek itself was on shaky ground by Season 2, fighting for renewal and struggling with budget constraints. Launching a second series connected to a show that might not survive didn't make much business sense. And yet, watching it now, you can't help but feel like Assignment: Earth could have thrived in the right era. It was basically Doctor Who meets Mission Impossible long before American TV embraced serialized genre storytelling. Fans still occasionally dream of a modern reboot, with Gary Seven's story finally given the spotlight it deserves. The legacy of Gary Seven in Trek lore. Even though he never got his own show, Gary Seven didn't vanish entirely. The episode lived on in fan memory, tie-in novels, and comics. Some fans considered him a Proto-Section 31 figure, working behind the scenes to protect humanity without Starfleet's oversight. Others speculated about his alien benefactors, wondering if they connected to the same mysterious powers glimpsed elsewhere in Trek. In many ways, Gary Seven was an early sketch of a recurring Star Trek theme, that Earth's survival often hinges on unseen guardians. Whether it's Section 31, the Temporal Integrity Commission, or characters like Daniels in Star Trek Enterprise, the franchise repeatedly returns to the idea of hidden forces shaping history. Assignment: Earth was the seed. The homage in Strange New Worlds. Fast forward to 2023, and Strange New Worlds Season 2 gave us Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. In it, Lon Noonien Singh finds herself trapped in 21st century Toronto with James T. Kirk facing a mission with shockingly familiar echoes of Assignment: Earth. Not only does the episode mirror the setup, a Starfleet officer stuck in the past, trying to prevent catastrophe, but it goes even further. A mysterious figure from the future reveals themselves as part of the Department of Temporal Investigations DTI, a direct descendant of the kind of work Gary Seven was doing. The idea that humanity's timeline must be protected by covert operatives is essentially a modern homage to Assignment: Earth. Even more striking, the finale moment, where Lon is forced to accept that the timeline must unfold as it should, even at great personal cost, feels like a thematic echo of Kirk and Spock choosing to trust Gary Seven back in 1968. Both episodes end with Starfleet officers realizing that the universe has guardians who sometimes know better than they do. Why the homage matters. By referencing Assignment: Earth 56 years later, Strange New Worlds did more than wink at fans. It restored the episode's place in Star Trek's long arc of temporal storytelling. It validated Roddenberry's vision. Even though NBC passed on Gary Seven, Star Trek itself eventually adopted his premise. Temporal operatives, secret guardians of history, and covert missions on Earth all became recurring Trek elements. It connected old and new fans. For longtime Trekkies, the homage was a satisfying callback to one of the weirdest, most distinctive episodes of TOS. For newer fans, it provided a thematic through line, showing that Star Trek has been wrestling with these ideas for decades. It shows Star Trek's self-respect. The franchise has reached a point where it honors not just its biggest successes, but also its failed experiments. Assignment: Earth may not have launched a spin-off, but it was bold, creative, and daring enough to deserve recognition. The cool factor, then and now. What makes Assignment: Earth endure isn't just nostalgia, it's style. Gary Seven's sleek gadgets, his enigmatic backstory, and his almost superhero-like mission felt die